Officials confirmed one of the three people shot and killed was rapper King Von from Chicago, who was here last night with friends, where a total of 6 people were. One of them, a rapper Davon Bennett, who goes by the stage name King Von.
I almost feel like
that security guard is something fishy with him. That's why he deleted his Instagram.
What if I told you one of the most electrifying voices in modern rap didn't fade out? It detonated. Not with a slow decline, not with a quiet exit, but with a violent ending so sudden it felt like someone ripped the power cord out of hip-hop itself. The tragic fate of King Von didn't just shock fans, it froze the culture mid-scroll. One minute, he was untouchable. The next minute, his story was being told in past tense. This wasn't just another rapper gone too soon headline. This was a collision of fame, street loyalty, unchecked momentum, and a night that spiraled faster than anyone could stop it. The kind of ending that makes you sit back and ask how success can move so fast it outruns common sense behind the music. The charisma and the viral interviews was a pressure cooker reality the internet loved to romanticize but never wanted to reckon with. King Von wasn't just rapping stories, he was living inside them. And when real life caught up, it didn't come with a warning label. This story doesn't unfold like a tribute. It unravels like a leaked truth nobody wanted to face, because when the lights turn off that suddenly, the silence hits harder than the gunshots ever did. King Von's story didn't begin with a microphone. It began with momentum, the kind that drags everything behind it, whether you're ready or not. Before the fame, before the charts, before the interviews that turned him into a viral personality, there was a reputation that traveled faster than his music ever could. And that reputation followed him into the spotlight like a shadow that refused to clock out. The internet loved King Von because he didn't sound fictional. His lyrics felt like open files, not metaphors. He didn't rap like someone imagining. The streets he rapped like someone reporting from them. That authenticity became his brand, his superpower, and eventually, his biggest liability. Fans didn't just listen, they believed. And belief can be dangerous when it turns real people into characters and real risks into entertainment. As his star rose, the tension followed. Fame didn't soften the edges, it sharpened them. Suddenly, every appearance felt like a potential headline. Every night out looked like a scene waiting to be misinterpreted. The higher Von climbed, the thinner the margin for error became. And the culture cheered him on like gravity wasn't undefeated. The night everything went wrong didn't start with chaos. That's the part people forget. These moments rarely announce themselves. They creep in dressed like celebration. Cameras flashing. Friends laughing. Success humming in the background like white noise. And then one decision, one encounter. One spark changes the temperature instantly. When news broke, confusion hit first. Fans refreshed feeds like it had to be fake. Rumors raced ahead of facts. Names were tossed around recklessly. Timelines didn't add up. The internet tried to make sense of it in real time, but real time doesn't wait for understanding. It just moves forward and leaves wreckage behind. What made it heavier was how fast the narrative split. Some people treated it like destiny, as if violence was an unavoidable plot point instead of a preventable outcome. Others went quiet suddenly, uncomfortable with how much they had glamorized the very energy that now ended in tragedy. The same people who once praised the realism now struggled to sit with the reality. King Von's rise had been fast, loud, and unapologetic. He didn't play the rebrand game. He didn't pretend to be something else for comfort. That refusal earned him respect, but it also boxed him in. When the world expects you to be hard, stepping back feels like betrayal. And that expectation doesn't come with a safety net. The first reactions from the industry were raw, shock mixed with regret. Tributes flooded timelines almost immediately. each one trying to reconcile the talent with the loss. But underneath, the praise was an unspoken tension, the awareness that this story felt familiar. Too familiar. Like a song, the culture keeps replaying and acting surprised when it ends the same way. Fans dug into old interviews, old lyrics, old moments, searching for clues like hindsight could offer closure. Every bar suddenly sounded prophetic. Every joke felt darker. The internet loves to rewrite history once it knows the ending, as if meaning only exists after the fact. But reality doesn't operate in reverse. There was also anger. Anger at the situation. Anger at the environment. Anger at the cycle that keeps claiming talent before it fully matures. Some blamed the streets. Some blamed fame. Some blamed nobody at all, because assigning responsibility is harder than sharing grief. The controversy didn't come from speculation alone. It came from recognition. People recognized the warning signs because they'd seen them before. Fast success, public bravado, crowded entourages, nights that mix celebration with unresolved tension. The ingredients weren't new. The outcome just felt especially brutal because of the potential left behind. King Von wasn't just a rapper on the come-up. He was becoming a storyteller people trusted. Someone who could translate lived experience into music that felt cinematic. That's why the loss hit deeper than charts. It felt like a voice was cut off mid-sentence. As details slowly emerged, the shock didn't lessen. It sharpened. Each confirmation made it more final. The hope that it was exaggerated or misunderstood faded. What remained was the uncomfortable truth that talent doesn't shield you from consequence. And success doesn't rewrite the rules of reality. The first phase of grief online is disbelief. The second is myth-making. King Von's image started shifting almost immediately. Some painted him as a fallen hero. Others reduced him to a cautionary tale. Both extremes missed the complexity of a person who existed between those narratives. What's tragic isn't just how his story ended, it's how predictable the conversation around it became. The same debates, the same takes, the same empty promises to do better next time. The culture mourns loudly, but learns quietly, if at all. This wasn't just a loss for fans. It was a rupture in momentum, a reminder that success can amplify. Danger if the environment doesn't change with it. King Von didn't just carry his past into the future collided with it, and as the initial shock settled, one question hung in the air heavier than the rest. Not how it happened, but why this keeps happening. Because this story didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of a system that keeps confusing authenticity with inevitability. And the night that ended King Von's life didn't just stop his journey. It exposed a cycle the culture still hasn't figured out how to break. Once the shock cracked open, the story didn't slow down, it spiraled. This is the phase where tragedy turns into spectacle, where grief collides with curiosity, and where the internet does what it does best. Consume a real human loss like it's episodic content. King Von's death wasn't just mourned. It was dissected, debated, and digitally replayed until the line between remembrance and obsession completely blurred. Social media. Timelines turned into war rooms. Everyone suddenly became an expert on what went wrong. People argued over seconds, angles, decisions, and hypotheticals like they were breaking down game film. If this didn't happen, if that person wasn't there, if they just left earlier. As if tragedy responds to logic after the fact. As if hindsight could resurrect anyone. Clips from past interviews resurfaced instantly. Stitched together with ominous music and captions screaming, "He said this would happen." Lyrics were pulled apart like prophecy scrolls. Fans treated metaphors like confessions and storytelling like sworn testimony. The same authenticity that made Vaughn magnetic in life became evidence in death. That's the cruel irony. The more real your art feels, the more people assume your fate was scripted. Industry reactions poured in, and they were heavy. Fellow artists posted tributes that felt equal parts love and warning. Some praised his loyalty and heart. Others hinted at how fast things can turn when street codes and fame occupy the same space. Nobody wanted to say it directly, but the undertone was clear. Success doesn't cancel danger, it sometimes multiplies it. Memes appeared anyway, not mocking, uncomfortable. The kind people share and then delete. Dark humor crept in because the internet doesn't know how to process grief without turning it into content. Some laughed nervously. Others snapped back angrily. The comment sections became emotional minefields where empathy and desensitization collided head-on. Comparisons exploded. People brought up other fallen artists. Stacking names like this was a tragic playlist instead of individual lives. The narrative hardened into something familiar. Another talent lost, another lesson ignored. And every time that comparison is made, it dulls the impact just a little more. Not because people don't care, but because repetition numbs even the deepest shock. Public outrage shifted directions depending on who was speaking. Some blamed the culture for glorifying violence until it becomes unavoidable. Others blamed the environment, the people around him, the choices made in moments of adrenaline. And then there were those who blamed no one at all, insisting that accountability discussions during grief were disrespectful. The problem is, postponing the conversation forever guarantees it never happens. What made this stage so volatile was the way King Von's image started to split. One version became mythic, a legend frozen in his prime, untouchable and misunderstood. The other became cautionary, a warning sign wrapped in talent. Both narratives fought for dominance, and neither told the full truth. Because real people don't fit neatly into slogans. The internet also began interrogating its own role briefly. People questioned whether fans encouraged dangerous behavior by rewarding authenticity without caring about safety. That moment of reflection didn't last long. Algorithms don't reward accountability. They reward outrage, nostalgia, and dramatic framing. So the conversation slid back into familiar lanes. Think pieces flooded platforms, each claiming to break the cycle while recycling the same points. Made after every similar loss: violence, fame, trauma, systems, responsibility. The words were heavy, but the impact was light because nothing structurally changed. Awareness without action is just performance. Behind the scenes, the people closest to King Von faced a different reality. Grief without an off switch. Loss without comment. Filters. While millions debated his legacy, those who loved him dealt with the silence he left behind. That contrast is brutal. Public mourning versus private devastation. The music took on new weight. Streams surged. Lyrics sounded different. Fans heard urgency where they once heard bravado. That's another uncomfortable truth. Tragedy often amplifies art in ways success never could. The industry profits from loss while pretending it's honoring it. Nobody likes to say that part out loud. As the outrage peaked, something else became clear. This wasn't just about one night. It was about momentum that never slowed down. About environments that celebrate toughness but don't protect talent. About how quickly situations escalate when pride, loyalty, and visibility collide. King Von's story became a mirror the culture didn't want to look into for too long. Because if you stare too hard, you have to admit that the cycle isn't mysterious, it's familiar. And familiarity is harder to excuse than shock by the end of this phase. The tragedy had transformed into a talking point, a reference, a lesson people claim to understand. But understanding without change is just memory, and memory, in this culture, fades fast. Because while the world was still arguing about what it all meant, the silence where King Von's voice used to be kept getting louder. After the debates burned themselves out and the timelines moved on, the real consequences settled in quietly. This is the part nobody screenshots, the phase where the noise fades, but the absence doesn't. King Von wasn't just gone. The space he occupied became painfully obvious. The culture didn't just lose a rapper. It lost momentum that would never be recreated the same way again. Reputations shifted in subtle but permanent ways. People around Von found themselves viewed through a new lens, whether fair or not. Association became scrutiny. Silence became suspicious. Every old clip, every photo, every interaction was suddenly examined for meaning it never carried at the time. That's how tragedy spreads, not outward, but backward, rewriting the past and pressuring the present. The industry responded the way it always does, with condolences, reflection, and eventually distance. Executives mourned publicly and recalibrated privately. The lesson wasn't about protection, it was about risk management. Talent is celebrated, but unpredictability makes people nervous. Doors don't slam shut. They quietly stop opening. Fans felt the loss differently depending on how they connected to his music. For some, it was personal. For others, it was symbolic. His death reinforced a painful reality that success doesn't always lead away from danger, and sometimes it runs straight into it. That realization stripped the glamour off narratives people once shared casually. The music industry continued forward, but something was missing. King Von had a voice that felt unfinished, a cadence that suggested evolution, the sense that his storytelling was sharpening in real time. That trajectory ended abruptly, leaving behind questions that will never be answered. Not musically, not personally, not culturally. Public perception settled into contradiction. He was remembered as both raw talent and warning sign, celebrated and cautioned in the same breath. That duality is uncomfortable, but it's honest. Because ignoring either side simplifies a story that deserves complexity. Tragedy doesn't turn people into saints or villains. It exposes the space between. The culture promised reflection, as it always does. Conversations about safety, growth, and change popped up briefly, then faded as new headlines arrived. The cycle didn't break. It paused, and pauses are not solutions. They're delays. What lingered most was the quiet realization that this outcome wasn't shocking because it was rare. It was shocking because it was familiar. The warning signs weren't hidden. They were normalized. And normalization is the most dangerous form of acceptance. King Von's legacy didn't disappear. It crystallized. His music became a time stamp, a snapshot of a moment when authenticity was both celebrated and exploited. Fans still listen, but now they listen differently. There's tension where there used to be excitement. Weight where there used to be hype. The story didn't end with answers. It ended with absence. And absence forces reflection whether people want it or not. The culture can argue about responsibility forever, but the result remains unchanged. Another voice silenced before its full potential was realized. This wasn't just a violent ending, it was a warning repeated. Because when cycles go unbroken, outcomes stop being surprising. And when tragedy becomes predictable, that's the real loss. King Von's story didn't just end in violence. It exposed how comfortable a culture has become with watching talent burn fast instead of grow long. And until that changes, this won't be the last story told like this. And this is where the story really leaves it in your hands. Because King Von's fate wasn't just a headline. It was a mirror, one the culture keeps glancing at and then quickly looking away from. Talent rose fast, momentum burned hotter, and the ending came before anyone was ready to admit how dangerous the path had become. This wasn't just tragic. It was telling. So now, I want to know what you think. Was King Von a victim of a system that glorifies survival stories but never protects the survivors? Or was this an unavoidable collision between street reality and sudden fame? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because the conversation doesn't belong to critics or think pieces. It belongs to the people still listening, still learning, and still asking why this keeps happening. If this breakdown hits you harder than expected, smash that like button like it owes you money and tried to dodge the bill. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next deep dive, because stories like this don't fade, they echo. And every echo teaches something if you're willing to listen. Here on this channel, we don't just replay the headlines. We break down the patterns, the pressure, and the truth hiding behind the hype. If it's hip-hop, culture, controversy, or a story the internet talks around but never really confronts, you'll find it here. This is the Rap Truth, where the USET truth, where the USETET, where the USETA with the USETETA. Life/long-lasting color. If it's high cop/long-lasting color, if it's hip-hop, culture, controversy, or a business squee, or a set, or a wistay, you/mide, we are a please, we are las, quote, we slice las akid, I will lies it condued, kabis it, with I, they are light on it, but to me my hit it, sit we say it lie it a cup you buy it by my set it, we see you kid I silarps, get to skid it today as I re we you to we, it sits to get it we it pubit it and get us to let it with the debate music is loud, the stories are real, and the endings aren't always pretty, because legends don't disappear quietly. And the truth doesn't stop just because the beat does.